What's up, everybody? It is Thursday, June 26th. Already into July next week. Folks, 10-year Treasury yield down at 424. What's interesting, and for me kind of both humorous and I think deserving, is that the most recent peak in bond yields happened right around the time when Moody's did that ridiculous downgrade of the U.S. credit rating agency. It's another example of the idiocy. You know, this is a combination of a mentality, a belief system, a mythology, even if you will, of a combination of monetarism and gold standard mentality. And I mocked it when they did that. I mocked the Standard & Poor's downgrade in 2011. And as a matter of fact, back then I was even in communication with their head of sovereign ratings. We did a back and forth email. And I said, well, how can you do that? I mean, you don't understand the distinction between a currency issuer and a currency user? And she said, yes, it was a woman. I worked at Standard & Poor's, by the way, in the early, like right around 2000, 2001 for a brief period of time. I told this story, I recounted this story a number of times on my channel. I'm not going to go into it. I'll just say that a lot of the managing directors in each different department and even the president of S&P Structured Finance, all women. All women. Take that however you want. Anyway, I said a couple of weeks ago, or whenever Moody's did that, I forget the exact date, I said, wouldn't it be great if this was the peak in bond yields? Because it would be absolutely a teaching lesson, not necessarily for Moody's or the credit rating agencies, but again, I think for the public at large. Really, again, I don't even think they would learn anything from this because, they also think in this kind of belief system mythology that the government borrows from creditors. But we've just been trending lower. And I've been saying on these videos now for the past 2 weeks, I said that this Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary Bessent's his proposal that Trump nominate early somebody new for the Fed. It doesn't mean they're going to be in the position early, just like to name somebody. That will start to shift market expectations off of Powell and onto the new guy. And I thought that was a very insightful comment by Bessent. And he's right. And I've been saying now for the past 2 weeks, like, you got to buy the dips in the bonds because it's moving in this direction. Trump is, we've been through the war situation, so he had his hands full on that. And now I think the focus is on the BBB, passing that tax cut bill and the spending bill. But we're very close to the point. It's been mentioned several times now, a bunch of times in the media, that Trump is thinking of appointing somebody, of naming somebody. And I think the market is starting to shift in its outlook, and it's anticipating the new guy coming in, and the new guy coming in is going to be a dove because that's what Trump wants. And I don't assign any kind of good or bad to that. You know my feeling on rate adjustments. I mean, I understand them implicitly. Rate adjustments are price adjustments and they're fiscal operations. That's how I look at it. I don't particularly say one thing is better than the other. It's just I know what they are. And as a consequence of that, I know how to strategize for them. But I think this is what's in play here. And the bond market, once the guy is named, I think you're going to see a really big rally take off in the bond market because there's a very large embedded speculative short position by leveraged funds. If you look at the CFTC commitments report that comes out every week, and if you look at the 10-year, I mean, there's a very, very large short position, net short position that is held by leveraged funds. That's hedge funds and futures funds So like they're on the wrong side of that and they just keep selling. So the potential is there for a very significant rally. All right. And I've been saying this for a long time. It got held up because of Powell and Powell's very stubborn hawkishness, which I've speculated, me personally, why I think that's going on. I think he's pissed off at Trump publicly humiliating him, and I don't blame the guy for that necessarily. I also think, now it's been my feeling like he's been running cover for some of these hedge funds that have been short the bonds for a long time, and I think he's positioning himself for a very lucrative job at one of these hedge funds when he gets out. I could be wrong, but that's what it seems like to me. I also think that he's kind of a petty, vindictive guy, and I think his character is showing through. For me, if I'm working for somebody and my boss has no confidence in me and says he wants me to leave publicly every day, but I don't necessarily have to leave because I have a contract, I would leave. That's just my character. I would rather go out with honor than to be ridiculed all the time from a boss who hired me, who selected me, who now has displeasure or has shown displeasure with my performance. I'd walk out. So that's not Powell. He's stubborn, he's digging in his heels, and I mentioned the fact that I noticed there's been dissent within the FOMC members. Some who are saying, hey, we need a rate cut as soon as July. And again, I'm not here arguing for rate cuts or rate hikes one way or another. Because I said, I understand what they are. They're price adjustments and fiscal operations. But I don't know, I just think like the next move in bonds is going to be higher based on a different monetary policy. Now, the stock market, S&P and NASDAQ, I think they touched all-time record highs today. I'm not sure if they settled there. The Dow is lagging somewhat. Yesterday, I saw in the daily Treasury statement another big tax deposit from tariffs. It was almost 20 billion, 19.9 billion. We're running right now at a 28 billion. Now it's up to 28 billion a month. Last month, I said it was 25 billion a month of fiscal drag. Now it's 28 billion a month. So, and that's not even supposedly on July 9th. I think some more tariffs go into effect. Wasn't there like a suspension or something up until, that was the 90-day moratorium on tariffs? I don't know, was that the China tariffs or something, or the reciprocal tariffs? One of those things. So we're running right now at 28 billion a month. So that is expected to increase significantly. 28 billion a month. You're looking at what, like 360 billion annually just now from this level of tariffs, not counting what's going to come into effect in July, and then on through the rest of the year. And then, of course, starting on October 1st, when the federal employees who took the package that Doge offered them, they resign, but they get their paychecks through the end of September. That goes into effect October 1st. So we could have some pretty significant fiscal drag start to build up very quickly. Now, I looked today, just out of curiosity, how do net government transfers look? I like to look at that on a year-over-year basis. It just gives me a comparison, because with the tariffs now really kind of going exponential, I was wondering if there was going to be a really noticeable drop in that year-over-year net government transfers. And so far there wasn't. It was like an 8 billion little decline, which is very, very minuscule. So right now, it doesn't worry me. I am a little bit cautious based on the fact that we're at all-time highs in the NASDAQ and the S&P, not in the Dow as I mentioned, but net government transfers as a percentage of GDP. I like to look at that. Like, are these transfers growing faster than the economy? If that's true, that's like really an engine, a monetary engine that's going to drive everything up. And net government transfers as a percent of GDP, that has not made a new high. Okay, it started to come back. It's not far from the prior high, which I think was something like 4.7% of GDP. Now it's like 3.6%. It's come back from the April lows, but it has not made a new high. And I've said this in previous videos that if that thing makes a new high, then absolutely it justifies not just new highs in the market averages, but I think a whole new leg in the bull market. That has not happened yet. All right? I'm not even sure if it will happen, but that has not happened yet. So I would say right now, as we get to the prior highs, maybe even exceed them by a nominal, marginal amount, I would say that the stock rally right now is getting a little bit more speculative than it was even a couple of weeks ago. All right? So keep that in mind. As I said, the Dow has not made a new high. We didn't get an official new highs in the NASDAQ and the S&P. So we probably still have some room there. But like I said, I like to look at net government transfers as a percent of GDP. That has not made a new high. So it's a little bit of a cautionary sign for me. I think it says that the rally's getting a little speculative. Not overly, but it doesn't have that engine, that force behind it that would be represented in the fact that if the net government transfers did get to a new high. Anyway, I guess that's it for today. We're in the Florida, summertime. We get beautiful days, and then by the afternoon, you get these wild freaking thunderstorms and stuff coming in. Last night, half-inch hail coming down. It was crazy. Everything blowing, 50, 60 mile an hour winds. Then it calmed down. We're getting a little bit of it today, but no precipitation, no hail. By the way, if any of you, camping is my new thing. All right? I love camping. I started late in life. Actually, I didn't really even start till about 2 years ago when I got into it. Now I really, really love it. The one thing I love about it is it's another one of these things that takes you out of your comfort zone. And I've spoken so many times about the benefits of doing things that take you out of your comfort zone, all right, that feel uncomfortable. Actually, camping is very, very enjoyable, but look, you don't have, your nice bed that you sleep in. You don't have a controlled environment like you would have in your house. You don't have a fully equipped kitchen and all the utensils and the stuff that goes with that for food preparation. So there is a large element of, discomfort in that. I mean, the sleeping, for me anyway, I don't sleep very well when I camp. I get a little inflatable bedroll and then a sleeping bag. It's not comfortable, but I don't care. I put up with it. But what's what's better than sleeping out in nature under the stars? I'm going to do a lot more of it. And I just want to mention, if any of you see, most of the camping I've done so far has been either in kind of a desert environment or canyons, like I was just out in Canyonlands and Arches. I want to do something more woodsy, more foresty, mountainy. If you guys, maybe something out west in, I was thinking of going to Crater Lake, Oregon in September. If you guys have any favorite spots out there that you could suggest to me, please let me know. I would appreciate it. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Please like and subscribe if you've done that already. Thank you very much. And don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. The second half of this year is going to be very, very interesting because it could be the time when we finally start to see a significant amount of fiscal drag hit the economy. Okay, so far fiscal flows, as I've been telling you, extremely strong. That's been driving the market up, risk assets, etc. But things could change measurably starting very soon, actually, and definitely when we get into the fall in October, November, December, and beyond. So you want to keep abreast of that. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Enjoy. See you tomorrow. Bye.